In the political cycle, the only election that matters is the next one. But before we move on, I thought we should take a look back at the 2020 presidential election to get a better perspective going into this election. Today, we are going to take a look at the states that voted most liberally in the 2020 presidential election. And hey, after this video, you can check out the most conservative states as well, and that'll be linked at the end of the video. Joe Biden's home state of Delaware is the state that voted 10th most liberally in the 2020 presidential election. Delaware is the second smallest state in the country. They actually don't even have 1 million residents yet, but they do have 2 million chickens if you're interested. Joe Biden won over 58% of the vote in Delaware, and Donald Trump received just under 40% of the vote. So, why does Delaware vote so Democratic? Delaware voters are actually pretty fiscally moderate, but socially, the state skews pretty liberally. If the idea of living in a state that is socially liberal but fiscally moderate appeals to you, Delaware may be a perfect fit for you. But the next state on our list is also one to consider. My home state of Washington is one of the most liberal states in the country, but one way most residents are pleased is because we're taxed lower than the other states on this list, although Washington is starting an income tax next year. 58% of residents voted for Joe Biden, and just under 39% voted for Donald Trump. Most of Washington is pretty conservative, but the population of King County keeps this state very blue. Washington has been voted as the best state to live the last 2 years because they have some fantastic aspects of living here. No one can deny that. But don't get it twisted. It can be expensive to travel, there's little diversity, and the weather is gray and gloomy much of the year. I'd still say it's better than the weather that they have in the next state on our list. While Connecticut's weather may not be perfect for softies like me, Connecticut has a lot of positive things going for it. They actually have one of the highest median incomes of any state in the country. Interestingly enough, the state has a lot of firsts with car regulations. They were the first state that had car insurance, the first state with permanent license plates, and the first state with a speed limit. Now, that one made me dislike Connecticut a little, but anyhow. Just under 40% of residents voted for Donald Trump, and Biden received 59% of the vote. Residents here really value public goods at a high level. They believe in spending and investing on things like infrastructure, education, and environmental protections, so they tend to fit better in today's Democratic platform. Connecticut's neighbor to the east, Rhode Island, is the smallest state in all of America and actually enjoys some of the best air quality in the whole country. Rhode Island residents have one of the most interesting state birds. It's literally a chicken. That's just weird to me. I'm sorry. If any of you are from Rhode Island, let us know in the comment section why a chicken. Just under 3 in 5 residents voted for Joe Biden, and over 38% voted for Donald Trump. Only 4 times since the 1930s has Rhode Island voted Republican for president. Like much of New England, they don't exactly skew to the right or maintain a lot of political balance. But they have lots of history and fun things to do for families. You can experience beaches, go into town, and enjoy the family-friendly environment, or road trip to Boston, or our next state. New York is one of the most populous states in all of America, but much of the state is actually quaint, gorgeous, and feels more like New England, or even parts of the Midwest. Here in New York, almost 61% of residents voted for Joe, and 37% voted for the Donald. Because a huge percentage of New Yorkers live within very confined spaces, they honestly need more rules and regulations than other places do. Also, many people earn exorbitantly enough. They really don't care much about taxes because there's so much opportunity here. Less fortunate New Yorkers also tend to vote left because of the welfare and assistance programs the government subsidizes. Additionally, Democrats have traditionally been more likely to push for infrastructure investments. While no one is surprised that New York made the list, you may be surprised that the next state isn't a little higher on the list. California may just be the most polarizing state in all of America. If you don't live in Cali, you've probably found yourself there for one reason or another. It's the most populous state in America and has an enormous influence both economically and socially. In this election, over 63% of residents voted for Joe Biden, and only 34% voted for Donald Trump. That probably doesn't shock anyone who's paid attention to politics over the years. California's values are much more in line with today's Democratic Party. They tax the top earners at a really high rate. They value the environment, well, at least outside of LA, and definitely push the envelope more than other states do. This has turned off many Californians and pushed a lot of people out of the state. Hawaii is probably the most exotic state in America. It has beautiful national parks, beaches, and a unique cultural experience you can't get in many other states. Hawaii is one of the most isolated places in the world. Things do get quite expensive here. They do have lower property tax rates though. Hawaiians voted for Joe Biden almost 30% more often than they did for Donald Trump. Hawaiian culture is more communal, and part of their traditions are closer to socialist than capitalist tendencies. Also, no Republican presidential candidate has won Hawaii since Reagan in '84. So, a nominee may not campaign here because it's so unlikely to determine the outcome. Also, taking care of the earth is an important part of Hawaiian culture. When most people hear Maryland, they probably think of things like it's home to the Naval Academy, or it's the highest earning state in all of America. Or, if you're a sports fan, they're home to one of the NFL's most disgusting teams. As a Steelers fan, man, I hate the Ravens. Maryland residents gave Joe Biden an overwhelming 65% of their vote, while Donald Trump only received 32%. Maryland is a part of the Washington, D.C. metro area, and this area of the country has some of the highest earning jobs in all of America, and it's also very liberal. If Washington, D.C. were a state, it would easily top the list of most liberal states. But if you're not wanting to live in such a large metro area, Maryland does have medium-sized cities and smaller towns as you move out from the D.C. and Baltimore area. Massachusetts being high on this list sounds about right. This state was founded by Pilgrims, populated by the Puritans, and continues today to be one of the most influential states. Massachusetts residents voted for Joe Biden at a really high rate. To give you context, Joe Biden got a higher percentage of the vote here than Donald Trump did in Alabama. This state is very liberal. Now, the weird thing about Massachusetts is they usually vote Republican for governor. In the last 30 years, they've only had a Democrat as governor for 8. As a state, they really emphasize education, and they have an excellent system from elementary through college. This state has big cities like Boston and many small coastal towns too. There is such a variety of experiences available here. Now, the big winner or the big loser, depending on how you look at things, is Vermont. Vermont is the state that had the highest percentage of residents voting Democratic in the 2020 presidential election. Vermont is famous for beautiful forests, being the leading producer of maple syrup, and when it comes to politics, being the home state of Senator Bernie Sanders. This state prides itself on preserving its environment and providing top-notch education for students. Over 66% of Vermonters voted blue in the last election. More than twice the population voted for Joe Biden compared to Donald Trump. Now, if you're more conservative and watching this video was painful for you, maybe you should check out one of the videos playing on the screen. Thank you so much for watching, and of course, take care.